نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون
لا شيء أقوى من ذلك الانفجار الهائل والمروع. يعتقد العلماء أنه بعد 300 ألف عام من الانفجار الأعظم تشكلت الذرات الأولى، وبعد 200 مليون عام ولدت النجوم الأولى، وبعد 500 مليون عام بدأت تتشكل المجرات الأولى بما في ذلك مجرة درب التبانة. لقد زود الانفجار الأعظم توسع الفضاء وكل المواد بالوقود بما في ذلك كل المجرات التي سحبت معه.
والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون.
لعقود مضت عرفنا بأن الكون يزداد حجما، لكن العلماء افترضوا أن الجاذبية، أي القوة التي تجذب الأجسام وتسحبها باتجاه بعضها البعض، ستوقف هذا التوسع، فتسبب لملمة الكون على نفسه بما يسمى بالانسحاق الشديد.
يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين.
القرآن الكريم دعونا نتفق في البداية على أنه كتاب سماوي. هنالك العشرات من الأدلة داخل القرآن الكريم على أنه كتاب سماوي وبامتياز. أولا، تحدث القرآن الكريم من 1400 عام عن الذرة وأصغر من الوزن الذري. القرآن الكريم قال بسورة النساء: إن الله لا يظلم مثقال ذرة. إذن العدل يوم القيامة سيكون بالوزن الذري. لكن القرآن الكريم لم يكتفي بذلك، قال: ولا يظلمون نقيرا. المنطق أن الله يصغر ولا يكبر. بعد عام 2000 ثبت في اليابان أن كل فوتون ضوئي هو كرة فارغة بداخلها جسم أصغر منها ب100 مرة يسمى الكوارك. هذا الكوارك فعلا لا يدور ضمن فلك، لكنه يتحرك بحركة اهتزازية مستمرة وكأنه ينقر نقرا مثل الكرة الصغيرة داخل الجرس. لذلك هذا هو النقير، أي أن الله لا يظلم أصغر من الذرة ب100 ألف مرة. لم يكتفي القرآن الكريم بذلك، ثم قال: ولا يظلمون فتيلا. وركز القرآن بعد ذلك على آية الفتيل حيث ذكرها بسورة الإسراء. ما هو الفتيل؟ ثبت حسب النظرية الخيطية الحالية أن هذا الكوارك أيضا هو كرة فارغة وفيه حوالي 1000 خيط من خيوط الطاقة وبينها فراغات. فإذا كان الفتيل هو أحد هذه الخيوط، معنى ذلك أن الله لا يظلم أصغر من الذرة ب100 مليون مرة. هذا الكلام لا يمكن لبشر أن يتحدث عنه قبل 1400 عام.
For a while it was possible to believe that the laws of nature were not so precisely set as to require the hand of a creator. But then a completely new fundamental property of the universe was discovered. An anti-gravity force present in space itself. It is called the cosmological constant, and when cosmologists calculated its effect on the evolution of the universe, they realized it had to be very finely tuned indeed.
The fine-tunings, how fine-tuned are they? Most of them are 1% sort of things. In other words, if a thing is 1% different, everything is bad. And a physicist could say, maybe those are just luck. On the other hand, this cosmological constant is tuned to 1 part and 10 to the 120, 120 decimal places. Nobody thinks that's accidental. That is not a reasonable idea, that something is tuned to 120 decimal places just by accident. That's the most extreme example of fine-tuning.
No force in the history of cosmology has ever been discovered to be that finely tuned. The cosmological constant needs to be set to 1 part in a trillion, 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 trillion. Otherwise the universe would be so drastically different that it would be impossible for us to evolve. That the cosmological constant arrived at such a tiny value by chance seemed to be out of the question, but the alternative explanation was also impossible to contemplate.
Physicists did not want to accept the idea that the laws of nature might be controlled by well, the benevolence of nature. There should be no reason why the luck should just have it that we can exist. It's too much, it's a stretch, it's much too far to stretch.
It seemed that hidden in the laws of nature was a value so precise that it was impossible to deny that our universe was designed. But a designed universe requires the existence of a designer, a notion that even the anthropic scientists did not want to entertain.
The word of physicists that there is an element of fine-tuning, and I've tried to lay out 3 possible explanations. One would be God, which, as I've said, isn't an explanation at all. One would be the multiverse, and then anthropically, with hindsight, saying we have to be sitting in one of the universes that could give us. But the third one, which I've attributed to you, possibly wrongly, would be what I call the macho physicists, who say, well, it's just that we don't understand why these things are the way they are. One day we will, when we have a theory of everything, it will be understood. But it sounds from our conversation as though that I misrepresented you there.
I think one should underestimate the fix we're in, that in the end we will not be able to explain the world.
ويسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا فاليوم ننجيك ببدنك لتكون لمن خلفك آية وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا لَغَافِلُونَ.
In his work on evolution and natural selection is that we don't need to invoke any supernatural force or power to account for the development.
Too much evidence to ignore.
Do you think it's a belief?
No, it's science.
It's the way it happened.
It's logical.
You know, all the scientists pretty much agree with it.
It's more of a fact.
When did you start to believe?
When I started to think for myself.
When did you start believing?
When I took my first biology class.
It all started to make a lot of sense. The teacher made it very easy to understand.
I generally trust the scientific community.
Makes more sense than any religion or anything.
The fossils they found of all the cavemen, the Homo sapiens, dinosaurs, it shows clear evidence.
I believe in science.
What's your major here at this university?
Biology.
You're a biology major?
Yeah.
You believe in evolution?
Yes.
What's your major?
Geology.
Chemistry?
Biochemistry.
Environmental science and policy.
I'm a physicist.
Biochemistry.
Okay, do you believe in evolution?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe in evolution?
Yes, I do. Of course.
Yes, I do.
I do believe in evolution.
You believe in evolution?
Yes.
Are you a strong believer?
Yes.
Are you a strong believer?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
A scientific method is based on the collection of data through observation and experimentation. Science Daily.
Could you give me some observable evidence
that evolution is true. Something I don't have to receive by faith.
Yeah.
Some observable evidence.
I mean, take a look at what happened 65 million years ago.
Hang on, I can't. That's 65 million years ago.
I believe, yeah, millions of years.
So that can't be observed.
We can trace the evolution through the fossil record.
Could you be specific? Just give me one.
Between 6 and 7 million years ago.
Hundreds of thousands to millions of years?
So it's quite a long time?
Yes.
Millions of years?
Yes.
So it can't be observed?
Evolution is not testable over time.
We are condemned to live only for a few decades, and that's too slow, too small a time scale to see evolution going on. Richard Dawkins. We see nothing of these slow changes in progress until the hand of time has marked the lapse of ages. Charles Darwin.
We have thousands of examples.
Can you give me one?
I can give you thousands.
Just one.
For instance, I would say look at Lenski's experiments with bacteria then.
So what do the bacteria become?
The bacteria are still bacteria, of course.
So that's not Darwinian evolution. That's not a change of kinds, is it?
It is a change. It is a change in the genetic makeup of the bacteria, which is
still bacteria. So what do the bacteria become?
A new kind of bacterium.
So it's still bacteria. There's no change of kinds. Kind? Can you think of any observable evidence for Darwinian evolution where there's a change of kind?
Change of kind. Change of kind. I'm gonna have to think about that one a little longer.
You give me anything that I can see, observe, and test, which is a scientific method for Darwinian evolution, a change of kinds.
Test and observe.
Could you give me observable evidence, which is a scientific method for Darwinian evolution, a change of kinds?
Okay, I gotta think about it. So you want the evidence of it?
I would say I cannot, I think. It's a hard question, actually. Mitochondrial DNA. So, can you repeat the question again?
Could you give me any observable evidence, just one, for Darwinian evolution?
Let me think about that for a sec.
Observable evidence, something where we don't have to exercise faith. Something that can be observed, like the scientific process, observable.
That's a good question. That one I'm not quite sure.
So you can't think of any observable evidence for evolution?
No.
How do you know it's true?
I'm not sure.
Does God exist? Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be? One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, the universe has a cause. Is the first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician. And if something can come into being from nothing, then why don't we see this happening all the time? No, everyday experience and scientific evidence confirm our first premise. If something begins to exist, it must have a cause. But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin, or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever. The universe is just there, and that's all. First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy. And that's the point.
If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now.
The second law points us to a universe that has a definite beginning. This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries. In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity. This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe. Next, Alexander Friedmann and George Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding. Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the red shift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past. It was a monumental discovery, almost beyond comprehension. However, not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence. But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time. More recently, 3 leading cosmologists, Arvin Bord, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, prove that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning.
This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing.
This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard model. It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause. And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe. It must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful, much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.